You've probably heard it before. If you want to buy a house, just stop buying lattes. Let me be clear. That's not the reason why most people feel stuck. If you ever walked into a Target for one thing and walked out with $50 and how the heck did this happen, then you know what I'm talking about. And if you ever felt like owning a home is this big, faraway things that people do when they're older or what people do when they're richer or more together, then let me reassure you, buying a home is totally doable. But it's not going to happen by guessing. It's going to happen by planning. And no, you don't need 20% down. That's a myth. What you do need is a plan. And that's exactly what I'm going to give you. Now, before I uncover that Kevin Martini step-by-step strategy to start saving for your first home, which is a real strategy, no fluff, no vague advice, something you can actually take action on, something that fits your life and timeline. But first, I have to make the compliance people happy. So, I am Kevin Martini, a certified mortgage advisor and producing branch manager, NMLS 143962, with the Martini Mortgage Group at Gold Star Mortgage Financial Group Corporation, NMLS 3446, Equal Housing Lender. This podcast is here to inform, educate, and entertain, not to provide any legal or professional advice. Before we even talk about savings, we got to talk about what's already happening with your money. Because here's the truth. Most people don't have a savings problem. They have a clarity problem. They don't know what's really coming in or what's quietly leaking out. So here's where you start. Look at your bank account, not just the balance. Go back through the last 60 to 90 days. Take a breath while you do this. This isn't about judgment. This is all about awareness. You want to understand what you're earning each month. Now, this includes your regular paychecks, your side hustle, anything consistent. Then take a look at what's going out. Not just the big stuff like rent or your car payment, but all of it. The food delivery, the streaming subscription, that online app that charges you every month, even though you can't remember what it does. And finally, get honest about what's optional. What could go? What could be dialed back? It's not about cutting everything you enjoy. It's about seeing where you're spending on autopilot without overthinking. Because the moment you see it clearly is the moment you can actually start making moves. Clarity is power. Now let's turn that clarity into a game plan. Let's talk about budgeting. Before you roll your eyes, hear me out. Budgeting doesn't mean cutting everything fun out of your life. It doesn't mean guilt-tripping yourself for the occasional night out or that weekly treat yourself moment. This isn't about punishment. It's about intention. Think of your money in categories. You have your fixed expenses, the stuff that doesn't change much. Your rent, your car payment, your phone bill, your utilities. Then you have your variable expenses, things like grocery, gas, and yes, all that fun stuff too. Then there's discretionary spending. This is where it gets kind of interesting. It's that extra layer, the subscription you forgot to cancel, the things you buy when you're bored, and the online carts that somehow always fill themselves. That's the area where you can find real opportunity. Not by eliminating everything, but by adjusting just enough to reroute some of that money into what I will call your home fund. And here's the trick. Automate it. Don't rely on willpower. Set it up so that the money moves out of your checking account and into your home savings account the same day you get paid. Make it a non-negotiable. Because once you treat your savings like rent, something that just has to be done, it stops being a struggle and starts to become a habit. The budget isn't your enemy. The budget is your GPS. It's what keeps you on track, even when life throws you distractions your way. Now let's talk about one of the most misunderstood and most important parts of the whole process of buying a home: your credit score. This is where a lot of people make the mistake of thinking, I've already checked my credit, I'm good. But here's what most people don't realize. The score you see on your banking app, the number that pops up on those free credit websites, that's not the number your mortgage lender will use. Mortgage lenders pull a completely different version of your score. It's called the mortgage model, and it operates differently than the ones you're used to seeing. Here's what it means. You could see a 720 on your phone, but when I pull your mortgage credit score, it could be 660. That's not just a vanity issue. That 660 could mean tens of thousands of dollars more or less over the life of your loan. And I want you to be on the right side of that equation. So let's break it down. There are 5 components that make up the mortgage credit score model. The biggest one is payment history. That makes up 35% of your score. Right behind that is credit utilization. How much you owe compared to how much credit you have available. That's another 30%. So right there, 65% of your score is based on 2 things: whether you pay on time and how much your available credit you're using. That's why I always say, pay early if you can and keep your balances low, ideally below 25% of your total available credit. Now, the other 3 components, length of credit history, type of credit, and new credit inquiries matter too. But start with the big 2. And here's a tip that might surprise you. Don't open new accounts if you're getting close to buying a home. And don't close ones either. That can actually hurt you more than it can help you. Now, if you're thinking, okay, but I'm not ready to buy for another year or 2, that's actually the perfect time to start. The earlier you begin working on your credit, the more time you have to optimize it. That's why I always say it's never too early to connect with a mortgage strategist. I'm not just a mortgage broker, I'm a certified mortgage advisor. That means I don't sell loans, I build plans. And I work with people every day, people just like you, to help them map out a clear path from where they are to where they want to be. My approach is fiduciary, which means I only give advice that's in your best interest. If you want clarity, if you want a real plan without judgment, just give me a call. My name is Kevin Martini, and my number is 919-238-4934. Now, that you've got a better handle on your money and your credit, it's now time to answer the question that everyone wants to know. This is where we bust one of the biggest myths in real estate. The idea that you have to save 20% down to buy a home. You do not even close. There are loan programs available where you can put as little as 3% down, and in some cases, 0%. No, that's not something that you heard it wrong. 0. Let's do the math. 3% down on a $300,000 house is $9,000. 5% down on a $300,000 house, that's $15,000. And 20% in a $300,000 house? That's $60,000. Oh my. And you don't need anywhere near that. And yes, the more you put down, the lower your monthly payment. But sometimes, especially for first-time home buyers, it's smarter to preserve your cash, to keep your emergency fund intact, to avoid draining your savings just to hit some arbitrary number. Saving for a home is about balance. It's about what makes sense for your financial life, not anyone else's. Now that we covered your down payment, let's not forget about everything else that comes with buying a home, because the costs don't stop at the front door. Here's what a lot of first-time home buyers don't expect: the hidden cost. I'm not talking about closing costs, inspections, or moving expenses, and even post-move surprises like repairs, updates, or just buying a lawnmower for the first time. Closing costs typically run 2 to 5% of the loan amount. That includes things like appraisal fee, attorney fees, title insurance, and more. Even if you're doing a zero down loan, you'll still need to be prepared for these extras. Moving alone can cost hundreds, even if you're doing it yourself. You got to rent a truck, you got to get the boxes, you got to put gas in that truck, and maybe you even have to bribe a friend or two in the form of a pizza to help you move. Then the maintenance, repairs, things your landlord used to handle. Now they're all on you. But here's the truth. Those costs, they're already baked into your rent. You don't see them, and your landlord, they're not eating the cost of your goodness of their heart. They're charging your rent to cover them and make a profit too. So owning a home comes with responsibility, but it also comes with control, stability, and long-term financial gain. The key is planning for those costs ahead of time. Create a second savings bucket for the extras. If it doesn't have to be massive, I'm saying, but it should be there. Okay, now let's talk about something that can make savings for a down payment way easier without even thinking about it. Automation. This is the secret sauce most people overlook. Automate everything. Set a recurring transfer from your checking account to your savings account every payday. And here's a little Kevin Martini trick you're going to love. Use a different bank for your savings. One that's not linked to your debit card. Make it just a little bit inconvenient to access. You know what they say, out of sight, out of mind. Also, name your savings account something meaningful to you, like My First Home or Goodbye Rent. I know it sounds silly, but it works. Every time you log in and see it, you'll remember what you're working towards. Because the truth is this, most people don't fail at savings because they're irresponsible. They fail because they rely on memory and motivation. Automation removes that friction. And small, consistent moves, they add up faster than you think. Still worried about missing out on life while you're saving? Let's talk about how to cut costs without cutting joy. Saving for a home doesn't mean putting your life on hold. It just means being a little bit more intentional. Swap out takeout once or twice a week for a meal prep. Cancel the subscription you forgot you had. Call your car insurance company. Call your cell phone company and ask if you can get a lower plan. You'd be surprised what you can negotiate. The goal here isn't to strip your life of fun. It's to prioritize the kind of fun that matters the most, like owning your own place and having a backyard barbecue instead of paying for an overpriced cocktail in someone else's building. You do not have to figure it all out at once, and honestly, you shouldn't. This part right here is what most people skip. Education, guidance, a strategy. And that's the part that makes the biggest difference. You can try to DIY yourself through it, or you can reach out and get a plan tailored to your numbers, your timeline, and most important, your life. That's what I do every day. I help first-time home buyers and repeat home buyers build custom plans that actually work, and I'd love to help you too. No pressure, no judgment, simply clarity. Let's map out your home buying strategy together. We can talk about how much you should save, when you should realistically buy, and how to avoid the biggest mistakes I see people make every day. The dream of homeownership doesn't live in someday. It starts with a single smart step. Let this be yours. My name is Kevin Martini, and I'm not just a mortgage broker. I'm a certified mortgage advisor who takes a fiduciary approach. And if you're thinking about buying or just simply want to explore your options, let's talk. You can reach me by dialing 919-238-4934. Thank you very much for listening to episode 211 of the Martini Mortgage Podcast. And thank you in advance for liking this episode of the Martini Mortgage Podcast and for sharing it with someone you care about.